Welcome. Today we're digging deep into the massive new EU AI Act. Why? Because there's a hidden risk buried inside it that could impact literally any business using AI, even if you had nothing to do with building it. Let's jump right in.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Could your business get hit with all the legal responsibility for an AI that you didn't even create? It sounds a little crazy, right? But the answer, believe it or not, is yes. This new law creates a situation where the entire legal burden for an AI system can get passed right onto your shoulders. So how on earth does that happen? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
It all comes down to one specific part of the law, Article 25. The best way to think about it is like a series of hidden tripwires woven throughout the AI supply chain. You cross one, maybe without even realizing it, and you fall straight into what we're calling the responsibility trap.
Now, it's really important to know, this trap is only set for a very specific category of AI, high-risk systems. We're not talking about your everyday chatbot here. We are talking about AI that's used in supercritical areas, places where a mistake could have really severe consequences. Things like medical devices, critical infrastructure, or law enforcement tools. Understanding this is key because every rule we're about to talk about applies only to them.
So here's the absolute core idea you need to grasp from Article 25. The legal liability for a high-risk AI isn't set in stone. It's not permanently glued to the company that originally coded it. With just a few specific actions, that responsibility can get passed along, kind of like a baton in a relay race you had no idea you were even running.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this shift in responsibility actually happen? The law spells out three very specific actions, let's call them triggers, that can instantly change your business from just being a user of an AI into its legal provider in the eyes of every regulator.
And here they are. On the surface, these look like perfectly normal, everyday business decisions, right? You rebrand a tool for your customers, you tweak it a bit to make it work better for you, or you find a new use for it. But under the AI Act, each one of these simple actions carries some pretty heavy legal weight.
So the first trigger is probably the most obvious one, white labeling. If you take a high-risk AI system that somebody else built and you just slap your own brand on it, you're doing a lot more than just reselling. The law sees your brand as a promise, as a warranty. You are essentially telling the world that you stand behind this AI's quality and its compliance. And by doing that, boom, you inherit all the legal responsibility.
The second trigger is making what the law calls a substantial modification. Now, this is not just some little update or a minor tweak. We're talking about a change that's so fundamental that it actually changes the AI's core safety features or how it performs. So, for example, imagine you take a certified AI for medical imaging and you fine-tune it with your own dataset to spot a totally new disease. That kind of change could totally alter its accuracy and safety, effectively creating a new AI in the eyes of the law, with you as its new provider.
Now, this third trigger. This one is maybe the most subtle of them all. You could take an AI that isn't even classified as high risk to begin with, say a general text generator, and you change what it's for. For instance, you could adapt it to help make recommendations in legal sentencing. Just by changing its purpose and pushing it into a high-risk area, you've just sprung the trap. That system is now considered high risk, and you are considered its provider.
Okay, so what happens when you actually pull one of those triggers? This is where the true weight, the real teeth of this responsibility trap become crystal clear. The consequences are huge, and frankly, they demand some serious resources.
Here it is, the heart of the matter. The very moment you trigger one of those changes, the original creator is legally off the hook for that specific, modified system. Your business steps right into their shoes and inherits this mountain of new obligations, all spelled out in another part of the law, Article 16.
And just to be clear, these are not small administrative tasks. We are talking about massive, resource-intensive responsibilities. You suddenly have to create and maintain a full risk management system, guarantee solid data governance, keep incredibly detailed technical documents, set up human oversight, not to mention ensure top-level cybersecurity, and even conduct a brand new conformity assessment to prove the system is compliant. This is the heavy, heavy burden of becoming a provider.
So you can really see that baton pass here. The initial provider doesn't just vanish. They still have what's called a duty of cooperation to give you the technical documents you'll need. But, and this is a huge but, they can actually be exempt from this if their original contract with you specifically said you couldn't make the kinds of changes you just made. And that makes it even more critical for you, the new provider, to be ready for 100% accountability. Okay, so faced with this pretty complex and kind of scary new reality, how can a business actually use AI safely without falling into one of these traps? Well, the key, really, is to be proactive and to deeply understand the new rules of the road for the entire AI supply chain.
It's also pretty fascinating to see how much these rules have changed over time. The first draft back in 2021 was a lot more vague about all this, but the final act we have now in 2024 is incredibly specific about the triggers, about the duty to cooperate, and, this is a big one, about the need for written agreements with third-party suppliers. It just goes to show you that regulators are really serious about closing every single potential loophole.
The law also brings in this idea of the generally acknowledged state of the art. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that being compliant isn't just a one-time checklist you can tick off. It's a moving target. Both the original provider and the new one have to stick to the absolute latest industry best practices for safety and security, which, as you can imagine, sets a really high bar for everyone.
So if there is one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Navigating this new world is basically impossible without crystal clear contracts. We're talking way beyond a simple user agreement. You need detailed, written contracts that spell out exactly what changes are allowed, who is on the hook for a new conformity assessment if a change is made, and the precise process for getting that technical documentation. This is your #1 defense against accidentally becoming an AI provider.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future, right? In a world where AI is becoming more and more collaborative, especially with open source models, how do we even begin to draw the line on where one person's work ends and another person's responsibility begins? Article 25 is the EU's first real shot at drawing that line, and you can bet the entire tech world is going to be watching very, very closely to see how it all plays out. Thanks for joining us.